What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be talking our beloved Invoker and why he has a 46.83% win rate. Honestly, pretty abysmal, all things considered, for the old Invoker, but I do think if you are an Invoker specialist, you can still get a lot of wins out of this hero and still make a ton of comebacks, because the hero is still really strong. But the grand majority of players obviously can't play Invoker to the highest potential, and even master tier players are still not getting what the pros are getting. Obviously, they're just some of the best Invoker players out there, and there are some players out there that are pulling combos out that I have no freaking clue how to even do, because I'm a master tier Invoker and it's my most played hero of all time, but even I'm not landing these crazy out of the freaking blue type combos. So don't be discouraged to play Invoker if you guys aren't getting these combos either. They are extremely difficult, and you have to be a very skilled player in general, not just a very skilled Invoker player. You have to be very quick on your keyboard, and that's something that takes a lot of skill, and not everybody's going to be good at it. Some pro players don't even touch Invoker because they can't actually play him, which is hard to believe. Some of the best players in the world don't even dabble in this hero because they're just not good enough to actually play it. That's one of the things that I like to tell a lot of newer players. I like to tell them to actually try out Invoker, play him in your normal games, don't bring him to rank, as it actually takes about 20 games for your average Invoker player to start getting the hang of the hero. It could take a lot less if you're more skilled of a player, but more or less that is kind of my guidance before taking him to rank, to at least 10 games, kind of get the gist of it. And if you're playing quax, then yeah, in that ballpark of 5 to 8 games, you will be getting the hang of quax. Obviously, you're going to be missing a lot of spells, but I think quax is the easiest way to play the Invoker. But today's video is going to be about Exort Invoker and how strong Exort Invoker actually is. Exort Invoker has been strong for a few patches now, and I think it's pretty much the best way to be playing Invoker right now. I think quax is kind of dead. I don't think the hero is really doing very hot when it comes to quax, and I think it delays your timings quite heavily. I think the right-click Invoker meta is really strong. I'm not the biggest fan of right-click Invoker, but I cannot deny that the win rates are much better on these builds than it is on your typical Invoker builds with the vessels and stuff. So your typical build right now on the Exort Invoker is Midas into Treads, then you run back for the Witchblade, the Blank Dagger, an Aghanim Scepter if need be. If you have a lot of setup for Cataclysm, then you still go for it. If not, you completely skip it and go for Parasma or Revenant Sprouge. You could also get a Hex or an Arcane Blink, and that's pretty much the build. I've seen players building Desolator, Mask of Madness. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff being played on right-click Invoker, and it does work most of the time on these weird right-click builds because Invoker has Alacrity and Cold Snap and your Forge Spirits as well, so you can dish out a lot of right-click damage. Plus, you always have your spell combos, your Meteor, your Deafening Blast, your Sunstrike, and that's one of the things you guys should keep in mind as an Exort player. Practice your Sunstrikes all the time, and also don't be discouraged from missing Sunstrikes. I have a lot of games where I'm just not landing those Sunstrikes. It's a very difficult ability to land. Take your time and just use the freaking ability. Stop feeling this pressure of I need to land this Sunstrike or my team is going to make fun of me. Sometimes you end up missing the easiest Sunstrikes, but you might pull off the craziest Sunstrikes, and it happens to me more often than not where some of the easier Sunstrikes I tend to miss once in a while, but the really difficult ones are the ones that I'm landing, the ones that are out of vision, the ones that are in fountain and things like that are a lot more difficult to actually land are the ones I'm landing. So the moral of the story is don't be afraid to cast your Sunstrikes, just use them and have fun with Invoker. Look for these high level plays and try and practice the hero as much as possible, as this hero, all it is practice. He is one of the hardest heroes in the game, but that doesn't mean you cannot pick him up after a bunch of games, and the more you play him, the more comfortable you're going to be on landing these combos, and you're actually going to remember which spells are on cooldown and which spells you need to use and which is the right combination to get a hero kill. But first, I also want to talk about his facets. So pretty much Elitist is the way to go. It's my favorite facet by far. They're pretty much both the same. They have the same amount of win rate percentage, so it's pretty much up to you, but I like Elitist because quax gives you lifesteal, Wex gives you movement speed, and Exort gives you spell amp. This is very good for the right-click Invoker. It means you don't have to buy any type of lifesteal. You're going to have it off your quax, so I do like this one the most. And the innate ability is still a freaking joke. I still don't know to this day why he has one of the stupidest innate abilities in Dota. For a hero like Invoker, you should be having something more complicated, something crazier. Maybe you get some cooldown reduction if you land more spells. So let's say per spell that you actually end up landing, you get some cooldown reduction or more damage amplification. I don't know, something crazy like that kind of rewards you for being a really high skilled Invoker player. But honestly, getting 25% of the XP on a creep deny is not that freaking cool. It's honestly one of the most boring facets out there, and it does encourage support Invoker players to actually go for denies, which I do find that is pretty decent, but at least it should be something something more interesting. You should be getting much more than that. Maybe gold for denies or something like that. Maybe that would be a little bit too busted, but you guys get what I mean. Let me know in the comment section below what would you guys pick to be Invoker's facet. What would you guys want to see if they ever do redo the facets? I think this is one of the ones they have to go back on and change, because this is absolutely abysmal. And I might have some people in the comments saying, oh, this is absolutely fantastic, you get much more XP. That's what Midas is for, honestly. Like, you're not going to be denying that much. You're going to be focusing on sunstrikes. You're going to be focusing on making high level plays and getting some really big combos off. I don't think you have a whole lot of time to actually be looking for denies throughout your game. That's just not something I look for. I'm pretty preoccupied with a lot of things going on in my Dota game to be looking for denies. Even though I do know they're important, it's just not something I prioritize a lot other than the laning phase. Now let's break down some of the best and worst matchups for Invokers. Some of the best are Medusa, Viper, Troll Warlord, Huskar, Tinker. All these heroes you're good up against. The Spirits you're also pretty decent against. And against Medusa, you do have to play quax. It's where you're going to benefit the most. You're going to be able to take away pretty much all her mana pool, and that's going to make your life a lot easier and your teammates' life much easier. And if you have a diffuser buy on your team, that Medusa is not going to be having a game and going to be pretty much forced to buy BKB or just pretty much use whatever she can to get away from that EMP. And then you buy Shard and she's going to be pulled into the EMP. So it's a pretty brutal matchup for the Medusa. Viper, I recommend going Exort Invoker, because you could burn his mana pool, but you're going to be losing the lane. But with Cold Snap and Fire Spirits, you're going to be able to deal with him. And if you're able to land your Meteor and your Deafening Blast or Tornado Meteor with a Cold Snap, you're going to be able to take care of the Viper in the laning phase. And once you kill him once, it's pretty much the hardest thing to do. But once you kill him, you're going to be able to constantly keep killing the Viper, and he's going to be falling off a cliff, and he can't keep up with your rotations either. Viper is one of the slowest heroes in Dota, so it's a pretty soft matchup. And heroes like Troll Warlord don't want to be disarmed. Your Deafening Blast does a very good job against that. Also, Tornado kites him a lot. Pre-BKB Troll Warlord can't do a whole lot. And Huskar and Tinker, more or less the same thing. You still play Exort, and you're going for the Sunstrikes onto the low HP Huskar. He's a pretty easy target for you to get. There's so much damage coming out from Sunstrike that the Huskar is pretty much going to be fearing for his life throughout the game if you are landing those Sunstrikes. Some of the bad matchups are Broodmother, Phantom Lancer, Templar Assassin, Lone Druid, Naga Siren. These heroes are pretty difficult matchups for you to go up against. Tusk as well. He's an old classic matchup that used to be really strong against the Invoker. Nowadays, it's not so much, because Tusk isn't a great mid laner, but I think if Tusk was to be back in the meta, he would definitely be shitting on Invokers. He's just very good against that hero, but I'm not really sure on how that matchup would go nowadays, because it's been a really long time since I actually played that matchup. I played both heroes. Actually, they're both some of my favorite heroes in the game, so I have played the matchup quite a bit, and it would suck being the Invoker when you're going up against a really good Tusk player. You'd pretty much stand no chance in the laning phase, but that was before all the changes to Invoker. Nowadays, I don't see any Tusk mid. Maybe the occasional replay I end up watching a Tusk going mid, but mostly it's just offlane or support Tusk, so you don't have to worry about that a whole lot. But heroes like Templar Assassin and Lone Druid are very strong, and you're gonna need to watch out for those, because if you are facing up against a last pick Templar Assassin, you might just get shit on. It's a very difficult matchup. You could deal with her a little bit with your Forge Spirits, and maybe if you can land a Meteor combo, then you might be a little bit well off, but overall you're not going to be doing too well against that matchup. It's just way too much physical damage, and you just can't stand in lane. You're pretty much going to get kicked out of lane before level 6, so it's not a matchup I do recommend. Now I want to talk about some of the issues with Invoker and some of the nerfs he had in the past. They ended up nerfing his Ghost Walk, which kind of sucked. It was making him a really high picked hero and also had a really high win rate. Ghost Walk, mana regen, and health regen should be slightly higher, because the mana cost is just so much on Invoker's abilities. It is nice that you're getting this free reset. It should be a little bit higher, not back to where it was really broken, but maybe slightly higher. Maybe a few points here and there is going to help you out, because you're going to be depending on your teammates to actually get mana boots, or you get your boots of travels and you're going to be spamming clarities. So you definitely don't want to be doing a whole lot of that. You're going to be investing a lot on your mana pool, but if you do buy 2 null talismans, you're pretty much going to be a little bit better off, and you might not have so much mana issues. But without 2 null talismans, you're going to be in a world of pain when it comes to your mana pool, because you're going to be spamming a lot of spells and not a whole lot of mana to back you up. Something Something else I think they could change is a faster cooldown on Meteor. Currently it's 50 seconds. I think that's absolutely outrageous. Why in the hell is this 50 seconds? This is not an ultimate ability. This should honestly be 25 seconds, maybe 30 at most. Why is this 50 seconds? Like, this is absolutely insane. It's one of your best abilities. Okay, you could play with the numbers a little bit, but having a faster cooldown is much better. That way with Refresher or with Octarine, it's going to be a little bit better and you're going to have a lot more damage, because in some games it feels like when you don't have the Refresher and you cast the meter, it feels like a lifetime before you get the next one. And that is pretty much one of your biggest damage sources other than like Cataclysm or just a raw Sunstrike. You need to have this ability on a higher uptime. So I think Valve should definitely consider this. Let me know in the comments though, what will you guys change about Invoker this patch, and what do you guys think he needs to push over that 50%? I know at the end of the day, a lot of rookie players are playing Invoker and they're losing with him. They're trying to practice him. So overall, the win rate is pretty difficult to climb over 50% because he's one of the hardest heroes in Dota. I think if he gets a few more buffs here and there, he might just be meta again, because even in Pro League, they're not playing him a whole lot. And it's kind of sad to see my favorite hero not getting picked as much. I am a really big fan, especially of Miracle Invoker. I definitely want to see him play that more in the future. But let me know who's your favorite Invoker player out there. Is it Sumiya, if I pronounced that correctly, or is it Miracle, or any other Invoker player? I would definitely like to know. That is today's question of the day. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.